There is a noise that's very annoying. Am I the only one hearing it?
Well, I heard it a few times, but it could have been some shuffling or anything.
No,
I
it's
think-
like when you're underwater and you're there's I don't know.
I haven't put mine on mute to see, but we're almost ready to start. I've got 1 o'clock. We're just going to wait 1 minute to see if Conseiller Leo is going to be joining us. If there's no objections.
Councillor Fisher's on the phone, so I'm probably calling him.
Yeah, I'm on the phone to Leo. He's having technical difficulties. He'll be on in a minute.
Okay, well, wait a minute.
Melanie, can you resend Leo the link for the meeting, please?
Well, am I the only one hearing that bing bang now? Because I'm going to disconnect if I'm the only one hearing those noises.
I heard a bang, but it was from the hallway, so.
Oh,
It's the door.
oh, but there's another, I don't know.
Another sound?
It seems it goes with the picture we're seeing from Conseiller Dan, like it's, I don't know.
Better?
Not me, Councillor Lees. I had mine on mute.
Okay, no, I saw that, but see, it's better now that you're sitting. I don't know. See that noise is gone. It was like I don't know. I didn't. It was nothing major. It's just it was a very particular noise.
Okay, so Conseiller Leo was successful in joining us. So welcome to each and every one of you to another budget meeting. Bienvenue à une autre réunion budgétaire. Is there a volunteer as a mover and a seconder for the resolution? Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Rowley.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Larrabee. Be it resolved that the agenda for the meeting of council held on March the 29th, 2021 be adopted as presented.
Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Adopted, carried. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Aucune déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire? None? Okay. I see that we have a very special guest amongst us this afternoon. Nous avons un invité spécial parmi nous cet après-midi. And I want to say thank you to all members of council to provide the opportunity for our chief librarian to be amongst us and to provide us with an overview of the budget for the library for 2021. We were provided what was required for this year, which was a total in excess of 400,000. Nous avons été donné une ébauche que le budget requis pour les bibliothèques de Nipissing-Ouest était au-delà de 400 000 pour l'année 2021. And without any undue delay, I'll pass it over to Emily Keenan so she can provide us with an overview of the budget. And after her presentation, if there's any members of council that do have any questions, it'll be the opportunity to ask the questions. Donc, Émilie, je te passe la parole.
And thank you, Madame Mairesse. And again, thank you to everyone here. Merci à tout le monde pour m'avoir invité aujourd'hui pour partager au sujet de la bibliothèque. Thank you very much. So I have a little presentation for everyone today. Just kind of going over what the library's been up to the last couple of years, where we are and where we plan on going this year and upcoming years. So I'll try and share that with you. Is everyone able to see my screen? Yes, okay. So for those who don't know, the library, we offer, it's much more than just books now. Although we do have books, we have movies, we offer computer services, office services, we have programs for all ages. We do offer a lot. We offer something for everyone for sure. So I'm going to go back to 2019. Yes, there we go. 2019, which seems like it was so far ago now. So just some highlights from that year. We circulated a total of 45,082 physical items in our libraries. We've added 327 new members. We held a total of 93 programs and 1,200 participants total for those programs. Now, some of those programs we held were book club meetings, story times, tech classes, some crafts, our teddy bear sleepover, and our toddler luau. Now, some of the pictures on the side here are those programs we held. And yeah, so, and then after that, and the library would really be not what it is without our community partners. In 2019, we held some really fun activities with help from our community partners. So we had our 911 day. So we had the OPP, we had West Nipissing Fire, we had the Nipissing District Paramedic Services come by in Cache Bay, and we were able to have a big event there. We had 148 participants. They got to see the fire trucks, the police cars. It was very fun for everyone. We had our Science Day with Science North that brought in 124 participants. We held some summer camps with the West Nipissing Community Health Center. And we had some baby yoga and meditation sessions by Breathe Yoga by Body Max Fitness. Then 2020 came around and things changed a little bit for us. We really had to shift our services and how we did things, how we did programs. So just a little timeline on what happened with the library during those times. On March 16th, 2020, we had to close our doors completely. And at that time, we didn't quite know what was going to happen, if we would be able to open up, when we could. And after that, we really took that time to make sure that when we could come back, that we were ready. We cleaned everything. We really took the time to look at our collection and what we were doing there. So that time, it gave us a little bit of downtime to do that, as well as we really tried to move our services more online and help individuals, access services online, access e-resources, ebooks, all that fun stuff. May 14th came and we could finally open curbside, which meant that people could check in, check out books, contact lists, so they could call us or email us, or we really tried to make it easy for everyone to be able to use that service. And we can also do, printing and all that fun stuff. July 17th came around and we were finally able to open with limited capacity in-person services. They could use the computer, so that was pretty fun. But then again, December 26th came around. We had to close again, curbside only. And as of March 15th of this year, we were able to reopen again. So we've kind of been back and forth with the steps, but we've definitely changed how we do things to really make our services still accessible for the community. Even with all that, we spent a good while closed. We still managed to circulate 27,120 physical items. We added 26 new members. We held a total of 63 programs, which is about 30 less than the year prior. However, we still managed to up the number of total participants to 1,229. Which is pretty great, I find, considering everything that was going on. Like I said, we really had to change the way we were doing our programming. So we started doing some virtual story times, some takeaway kits that, it might be crafts or whatnot that, families can do at home, some at home and outdoor scavenger hunts. And again, without our community partners, we wouldn't be able to accomplish as much as we'd like. So in 2020 with our partners, we held some meditation sessions before the lockdowns, of course, some anti-fraud sessions here in Sturgeon Falls, and some senior technology classes. And that one was really important because now that everything is kind of moving towards a more online, everything's moving more to online, it's getting challenging for those who don't have the skills online to be able to keep up. So that was really important for us. Some more accomplishments we got to do in the last couple years, maybe. We changed our logo with the help of the community. We had a contest. Members of the community submitted their ideas to us, and we decided with the help of the community through Facebook that this was our new logo. We've updated our website to make things a little easier for people, especially when they're looking for the e-resources or ebooks. And we began doing some updates across all our facilities, in Sturgeon, Cache Bay, Verner, kind of all over the place. And going forward, now many of you, if you have us on Facebook, if you follow us on Facebook, we have started growing our collection to offer some different things for different interests. So we now have Ontario Park passes that you can take out for a week long, and that gives you free parking at any park in Ontario. We have been growing our partnership with the West Nipissing Community Health Center, and coming soon this year, we'll be loaning out physical activity equipment, including walking poles and pickleball equipment. And we're really trying to find some new and COVID-friendly program activities for all ages. So that's all coming very shortly. We do understand that we do have a reserve that has been looked at in the past. Our board has decided to start using these funds for things that will benefit our library members and the community. So some of these projects, we want to complete our children's section updates that we began last year, making the space, where families can sit and enjoy once things are a little more back to normal with COVID. We have some facility updates that we want to get done, again, to just make the spaces a little more friendly, especially during these times. We want to update our security system to then be able to explore different automated systems. And, as you see here, the picture, I love to call it the book vending machine. And not just that, we can explore so many different things if we update our security system, and a much needed outdoor book drop for our Verner branch, which has been asked for some time now. And yeah, so for this presentation, that's all I have for you for this presentation. I'm definitely open to questions if there are any.
Okay, was there anything as far as the component for budget or any issues pertaining to that type of question so far, or basically on the services? I'm going to open it up to the floor to members of council. Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Yvon.
So I'm just looking at the library website, which is WNPL, I guess. And so what is the difference between Libby and the other option, Mango?
So Mango is actually a new e-resource that we've acquired this year. Mango teaches you languages. So I believe what you're looking at on the homepage is just kind of the what's new section. So we have that new resource, and then we also have Libby, which is it provides, you can have hundreds of thousands of ebooks on there. It's a free app that you download on your phone, and you can either borrow the books that we purchase, or you can go above and beyond, because we do share with multiple libraries across the consortium. Going a little bit back on Mango, that teaches you language. There's a bunch of different languages on there. I definitely encourage you to go and check it out. It's really fun to use, and all you need is your library card.
Follow-up question, if I may. So if I have a really old library card and it says your library card is blocked, what do I do?
So that might be just because every 2 years we ask members to renew their cards with us. And that's just making sure that all the information is up to date. You can just give us a quick call or an email, and we'll be sure to update that for you, no problem.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm done.
Thank you, Councillor Chris. Conseiller Yvon. You're on mute, Conseiller Yvon.
Merci, Madame Mairesse. Thank you, Amelie. A very nice presentation. Well, I listening in, your total membership or new membership was 327. What's your total membership for the library?
I believe I don't have the total number with me, but I believe it's somewhere around the 4,000 mark, and that's active members. So Councillor Chris would not be included on that because his card has expired.
Yeah, we wouldn't want that. No. But that's nice. It's just nice to hear, because you did get 327 since last year, I guess, new members, right?
Yeah. Well, that was 2019, sorry. In 2020, we had 27 new members. So I think because of the, the closures and all that, we didn't have as much as we normally do, but we're hoping that'll be up again this year.
Very interesting, with the programs you're holding and the participants in the program. That was interesting. That's all I wanted to know. I'm glad with what you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Conseiller Yvon. Councillor Lise. You are on mute, Conseiller Lise.
OK, je vais recommencer. Merci beaucoup, Émilie. C'était vraiment une bonne présentation, puis vraiment un bon sommaire de ce que vous faites. Puis c'est vraiment pas croyable depuis les derniers 25 ans, comment que les services, comment ils ont été ajoutés. Puis on a toujours été choyés, que ça a toujours été bien administré. Puis je vois que ça n'a pas changé avec toi depuis que tu as pris la relève. Alors, félicitations. Je vais aller m'enregistrer bientôt parce que je veux commencer à utiliser des e-books. Je ne sais pas comment ça fonctionne, mais en tout cas, merci beaucoup et continuez votre beau travail. Thank you very much.
Merci, Conseillère Lise. Bien, moi, je vais identifier les mêmes commentaires, soulever les mêmes commentaires qui ont été identifiés. Un grand merci pour l'excellent travail. Thank you so much. There's been a transformation, pertaining to services that are being available through the various libraries. And with the usage and the interest and the fact that there's a multitude of programs and activities also, it's phenomenal. Donc, félicitations, Émilie. Félicitations à toute l'équipe pour la contribution d'un service qui est réellement essentiel et utilisé par nos citoyens et citoyennes de tous les âges.
Merci beaucoup.
And it was a pleasure to have you here, and the opportunity to also, for many members, probably the first time that they meet with you ever since you became the chief librarian for West Nipissing. So thank you.
Thanks.
Donc, s'il n'y a aucune autre question, maintenant, on va procéder avec la documentation qui nous a été partagée par notre administrateur. We were shared a synopsis recommendation that was sent to all members of council later this morning by our CEO. So probably I'll pass it on to Jay if you want to walk us through the documentation that was shared to members of council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good afternoon, everyone. Right, so we've had the opportunity to go over and discuss certain issues of every department, and obviously, you know, when you're doing that, you're kind of doing it in isolation without understanding the ability to pay and so on and so forth. There were a lot of issues that were brought up that aren't necessarily budgetary issues, that are issues that are parked for a future council meeting, different reports that were requested, but that wouldn't necessarily affect any budgetary or expenditure level discussions. And so this budget and the resolution that's passed once there's a consensus is to approve the expenditure levels, which basically is in essence approving what and how you know, you're planning on doing for the year. Now there were some discussions with respect to whether or paying for certain things or not certain things, and trying to have Elisa do her magic or not do her magic, and so on and so forth. So what I've done here is kind of provided you with a synopsis that I'd like to go over. So you know, if you look at the start of it, and you know, you talk about there's a lot of discussion about the burner garage, and I'll go over, if you'll indulge me, with the entire list, and then you can, you know, start a discussion, Madam Chair, in whatever way you want. But you know, we talked about the Verner garage being maybe it's not necessary or whatever, but since then there's been a lot of work and a lot of information provided to me, and I think to the chair, Councillor Duhane, and others about the importance of having that work done and the necessity of having that work done. And so that would be an additional $105,000, but it was already factored into your budget submission. You also talked about the fact that Pine Poultry Road is in a state that really needs to be done this year, and so that was parked for future. Nature's Trail Bridge, there was a heck of a discussion on that, and you know, asking Melanie, or not Melanie, if Melanie knew magic, that would be good too, but we'll leave it to Elisa about how to do that. And there really isn't any magic any more than how to finance and how to fund things. Then we, you know, a general discussion about bylaw enforcement, and I'm just leaving that there, but there isn't really a dollar figure attached to it. There was also a discussion about whether to shut the museum down for the rest of the year or not. We have an assumption in our budget for a half a year anyway, so not big change. Discussion about this $25,000 in community initiatives. My recommendation, and I'll say, is to leave it. So if you're going to have economic development, I think you want some seed money. Maybe you don't need it this year. You're right, but this is a good year to at least put it in. If you use it, you use it. If not, it'll carry over, or what have you. But I think that economic development, different than community development, may want to have some funds for seed money. The Living Playground, there was a talk about reducing it to 25,000, and I'm not in support of reducing that right now. I believe you would keep it at 75,000. Heaven forbid, should the requesters not be successful, then you're still going to get your playground. And if they are successful, then it'll be money carried over for council for another initiative. When I was playing with all of the additional money, I've added a few things here, and I've taken the liberty. But I believe, in addition to the pressures that the Eau Chateau are facing this year with their increase, I also believe that we should start getting ready to fund the Eau Chateau, and I believe this year we can. So I'm recommending putting an additional $100,000 in reserve for the Eau Chateau, getting ready for their future issues. And the field school, yes, there hasn't been a debate or a consensus on that. The field school is up for tax sale this year, and if it reverts into the hands of the municipality, it probably would do so by June. And then it becomes our asset to fix that issue once and for all. So a little bit like Councillor Senecal, Dennis Senecal was saying, a little, you have an asset, at Nature's Trail Bridge that was ours. And that's a very valid point. Whether there's 2 or 3 people, it is utilized. And so, at the end of the day, we're going to have to do something about that. I'll be explaining. My recommendation is let's get it done this year. And same thing with that school. At the end of the day, field is part of West Nipissing. It is in our community. It is a major issue, and I believe we should start preparing for looking after things down the line. So this budget that I'm proposing now is not my budget. It's taking, listening to what you have said over the last month, a month and a half, and basically imposing it. Now, some of the issues. So getting into the crux of the matter. So before I get into the crux of the matter, so what we have is about a $1.5 million surplus from last year. So our reserve levels go to about $4.3 million at the start of this budget discussion, right? We originally had forecasted around 2.8 million last year was our end result. So it's jumped up to $4.3 million right now. Some would argue that that is a level where we should get it to. And I wouldn't, and I've always been the person that's been accused of being the freewheeler with the money. I don't know if it's age or what have you, but I'm less so, because I believe there is so much on the horizon with DSAB, with the health unit, with the Eau Chateau, with our infrastructure deficit, that we no longer can afford to play fast and loose like we have been, because it will catch up to you. And I also believe very strongly that, this year you can get your tax rate or tax increases low. My recommendation is that I look at that and I respect that. And so my 3.7 is a reflection of people who would not want to have a good tax increase. But by the same token, I'm trying to remove some pain for council and the corporation going forward, because what's going to happen is that if you do not have sustainable funding, you are going to pay a price. Now, this year, you are blessed with some additional funds, and that's why I'm able to recommend doing a lot of the stuff that was on the list. Just last week, though it isn't, the check isn't in the mail yet, I'm playing fast and loose with that, and perhaps with the Nature's Trail Bridge, is that we have a doubling of our gas tax, slightly less than doubling. And so I'm recommending that we use that money to basically start the Nature's Trail and get it done, finally. And it's not a expenditure that'll go to waste. In fact, it's an expenditure that will be, you'll be able to check that box down the line. I see your hand, but I'm going to finish my memo, Councillor Lale. Then Pine Poultry, there was a debate on that about whether you do that or do something else. There was also patching that I think the mayor brought up. Less, I think that was a less so one, more of an operation, but I think we can do that. And then my recommendation is this year, let's put some money into the Eau Chateau and Field School. The other ones are the budgetary increases that you had that represent the difference between the 6.84%, which is your opening amount, getting it down to 3.7. So the way I would recommend getting that done this year is use the surplus this year. You're not going to be using all of the surplus, which is you're only going to be using about 750,000 of it this year, and the remainder is going to increase your reserve. So instead of having 2.8 at the end, you're going to have over 3.5. So the end budget is with a 3.7% tax increase. You get pretty much everything done. You're using the one-time funding that you have, and you're increasing your reserve, and you're putting some dedicated reserves for areas that I know you're going to need down the line. So whether you fund it this year or pay a big political price next year, but these costs are coming, and you need to get ready. So I think the major debate, and it happens every year, because I haven't heard any other projects or anything that come into play, is what is your appetite for 3.7? That is my recommendation. I would like 5, but I know that some people will think around the 3 mark. So that's why I'm saying 3.7 is a compromise, where at least you'll be gaining an extra $500,000 next year, or this year, that you won't have to go and get next year. And that's the reason I'm putting it there. So I leave that to you to discuss whatever way, shape, or form, Madam Mayor, or whoever's chairing. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Conseiller Liu, Conseiller Rowley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Jay, for the update. 3.7%. So we would be doing like the bridge in the Ward 8 and the Verner Garage and all that stuff, and we'd still have a cushion, right?
Right.
Yes.
So, well, I would recommend 3.7%, and I'll get all that stuff done this year. Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Conseiller Rowley, Conseiller Chris.
Thank you, ma'am. So actually, Leo got it there. So what you're saying is we're having everything done, all the wish list done, the parks, nature trail, bridge, everyone pretty well gets what's being proposed for 3.7. That's what you're saying.
Yes. So we're doing a fair amount of additional work this year because of one-time funding. I don't think it'll negatively impact your taxes next year the way I have it done, but I would tell you on the record right now, there wouldn't be an expectation next year that you'll be doing this much work next year. What you have as a key advantage is additional gas tax funding. And then it really depends on, what our surpluses are next year, but that was highly unusual, that surplus. So you wouldn't have this level of expenditure to deal with.
Well, the surplus, I guess, would be, like you said, about 700,000 that will carry over from this year to next year because of the last year's surplus.
That's right. And that's how I'm, slowly increasing our rainy day fund to protect us going forward for issues that we know are going to happen. The redevelopment of the Eau Chateau is something in our control, more or less, but we're pretty sure that we're going to have to. We have big assets and we have to start fixing them.
Thank you.
Councillor Chris.
So I guess it's the general reserve position at the end is 3,544. So on the FIR as a percentage, and maybe this is an Elisa question. So where does that sit as a percentage? Is that like 12, 13%, or what's that number percentage wise? Because I know there's a recommendation, there's a sort of a range, and it's debated what it should be, and lots of different point of views. But where does that sit?
So our FIR is always a little bit skewed, Councillor Fisher, but based on our own situation and our own revenue here, it's just about 13%.
Thank you.
Conseiller Dan?
To elaborate on what what James mentioned about the health unit and about DSAP, I'll just on the executive summary of the operational and financial budget for 2021, it was stated that the financial plan for 2021 does not increase the member municipalities' share of the budget over last year. So we didn't have to increase the budget. This is made possible with continued provincial mitigation funding totaling 1.792 400 in supplemental municipal money. That would mean, and you know, our cost sharing for the health unit is 30% municipal, 70% provincial. There's no confirmation right now. There is no confirmation of additional mitigation funding beyond 2021, which could mean a more than 40% increase for municipalities in 2022. So it's just to reinforce what Jay was stating, that, you know, we may get nailed next year for large increases. In regards to DSAB, as you know, we've been funding, we put in place a shelter for the homelessness in our community, in the area, the district. And it's totally funded by the province. We were able to get monies to finance it for the whole year. But beyond next year, if the province doesn't come to provide us with funds, then we're going to have to pick up the tab, and that's the municipalities. And it runs between $2 and $3 million a year to operate. So those are things that are coming next year, and I think you know that things are going to tighten up next year. So I totally agree with what the CAO has proposed here. It's a doable thing. Councillor Senecal, Denis gets his bridge, and it's a good move because it's our asset. Those people need that asset. So no, this is excellent. Thank you for the good work.
Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Alice.
Merci, Madame Mairesse. Okay, I'm going to try to put this in perspective here. I guess first and foremost, I'd like to buy myself many cars and many trucks, but I can't afford it. Although I can borrow the money, but I'm not going to. People are talking to me saying, "Well, I'm paying $5,000-6,000 in taxes. I'm paying $4,000 in taxes. It's getting expensive." Yes, life is expensive, but we got to be realistic here. We got to understand that at the end of the day, there are small situations where people cannot afford increases to this magnitude. Now, in the last 2 years, we had 10% increase in our taxes. Now, the way things are going in Sturgeon Falls today, with the houses that are being overpriced and oversold, in 4 years, MPAC is going to do another assessment, and it's going to increase the taxes in this community beyond unbelievable. So we got to be careful here. Now, my way of thinking is that everybody's got to take a bite. It's got to take, it's got to step back a bit. Everyone that's involved in this budget, I don't care who it is, have to realize that it's the people that are paying the bills. And these are the people that we work for, and we have to understand how they feel. Now, with the impact this year, a lot of them have had to bite the bullet and had to, try to find ways of paying their taxes, find ways of paying their water bills, and find ways of paying their mortgage, and find ways to pay their rent. So to go in and increase as such as 3.7, I think we could still bring it down to, and there are other communities like Timmins and other communities that have brought it down much less than that. And I think there are ways within the budget that we can reduce it to bring it down lower, even lower than 2%. So let's be realistic, folks. And later on, picking up the tab, I'm not interested in picking up the tab. I think the government has to come to realize we can't afford to pay for everything. It has to stop. I mean, we got to be realistic. At the end of the day, I have a pension, and there's nowhere near some of you on this screen. So we got to look at that as well. We got to understand how the others are feeling about the situation. People with money have no problem. People that sells a house in Toronto for $1.5 million come here and build a house with $400,000. They have money in the bank, so there's no problem for them. But for people who have lived here all their lives and have to face the fact that their value of the house is going to go up due to the selling value, and then we're on the other hand, we're increasing the taxes immensely for other things. Well, these other things have no value to them except the fact that they have to live and put food on the table for their families. So I don't agree with the increase as such. So we got to bring it down, and I don't care. I'm not accepting 3.7. Nowhere near. Thank you very much, Madame Medes.
Okay, Conseillère Lise.
Well, okay, yeah, I'm on. Well, I don't agree with a 3.7 either. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. But my thing today was not thinking that we will vote for the increase in our budget today, because we have so much thing that we need to discuss. But some already had voted. So I'm just saying that comment, but I don't think we're ready to vote. I like to go point by point, and thank you, Jay, to have provided us with that, because I do have a question. And the first one, I'm looking at the Werner Garage 355. So Alicia, and I'm sorry to be hard-headed, if whatever you can call me, as long as you don't take it out loud, we'll be okay, right, Dave? But I don't get it that the discussion, and the same as last year, was 300. Last year was asking $30,000. And then I remember when I saw that today that, yes, we had $250 in the reserve. I don't get it, because I went back and I'm looking at the summary of all the expense, and they do match what the budget increase it is in every department. So, and I don't know, and this is what I when we started with 6.7 increase, for me, that was the total of all the department that was the money was missing for what was budgeted. I was right or wrong. So if you go on each department, and I went,
right.
okay,
6.84 was your opening amount.
okay.
Then I added other issues, or council discuss about other issues.
Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to make sure, because I don't get the point. That I don't get is the request was 355, and then we have 250. So really, it's 105 that should have been part of the budget, because the rest is there. It's dedicated reserve. And when we go on page whatever 49, I think it's there on the facility public work, and that was what we had discussed. So I mean, it's 105, so that's not 355. And I mean, so that for me make a difference. I don't understand that part. Then we discussed Pine Poultry Road, this nature trail bridge. I don't think it's Councillor Senecal's bridge, because I don't think he used it, but it's I'm going point by point, because we asking the question.
But but Lise, do you want an answer though, point by point? It might be just.
Well, I don't have I don't need. If I don't ask it, I don't need it.
So you asked, but you just asked a question, which is a valid question on the building. Is it 355 out of taxes, or is it 105? And I think that it would be good for council to know what the answer is, and then go to Pine Poultry. So
yes,
Elisa.
Sure. So when we produced the capital workbook that shows the values for the various roads and the facility and the trucks and things like that, what we show you in that workbook is the total cost of the project. So the whole cost of the project. When that number wraps back into your operating workbook, then you see at the bottom, those contributions from reserve or funding sources that come in, and that's how all that expense gets funded. So in that line, you do see that amount coming back in from reserve. So the net effect in the overall budget is just that 105 difference.
Okay, thank you. Now I understand. Okay. Pine Poultry Road, I mean, that should be voted, taken. I don't have any question about that. The Nature Trail Bridge, my only comment is, I don't think it belonged to Councillor Dennis. He doesn't use that. It's in his ward. So that's good for the resident that use it. And there's about, over 35 and all the additional in the summertime. Bylaw enforcement discussion, I recommendation went full time. I think that should gotta be discussed, I guess, because it have to do with employee, because right now we have two part-time. Museum, half a year. I think we had agreed that we're gonna be hiring a person, and I think it need to be continuing. Then community initiative, 25,000. I think what was my question at that time, that was the community. There were two things: priority project, community initiative, and so because we had it part of the community services, so that's why. And we community project, there's still a 25, I think, $1,000 for economic development there. So, and community initiative was something else. And I at that point of time, like I said, I hope we're going to go for vote, because I'm not in agreement with that, because we had one part in, and we had in community services. Playground living, 75,000. Obviously, if they're successful with the grant, that money is going to remain there. They won't use it. Au Chateau, I agree that at some point of time, and we have the reserve. Then then you go to the tax gas, blah, blah, blah. I would like to know what's part of the 555, 700, because right now there's things that we had brought out that we were not all in agreement. And I can name you a few. We had discussed about the extra money that Alicia had asked for an extra worker, which she did a very good pitch. We all agree with that, but I think we should have a discussion on that. We talk about the roof in the field. We talk about the moving. We talk about console that, I mean, we're not renovation. I think it was, so there is saving that can be done. And if you look at the inflation, this, it was 1.2, 1.3, I'm not too sure. And there's a few municipalities that went under 2, and this is what I would support, under 2. And the reserve was going to be, there was a cushion in the reserve, obviously. And but my big thing right now, and I don't know, but I was not under the impression we're voting for the budget today, but I would like to have what's part of the 555, 780 funded by surplus. So, and again, and it was well said when we're talking about the bridge belonged to us. It's our responsibility. I am not ready to put aside $100,000 when we don't know what's going to happen, and that building is still don't belong to us, the school. And so at this point of time, I would not support the $100,000 to put aside. If it ever belonged to the municipality, it will have to be brought up to the council. It had to be decision make, and I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but we have enough to try to figure out what we're going to do with this year budget to save money on something that doesn't belong to the municipality. So that's my say, and so I don't know how it's going to work, but I guess my say is we have to go about the thing we did not all agree or have concern, and just vote, and we'll go with the vote. I mean, it was part of the budget, so.
Okay, so maybe before passing it on to Conseiller Denis, Jay or Alyssa, would you have a breakdown of all the other budget increases, the $555,780? What does that consist?
That's your budget. You went through it. So that is the
Okay.
roll up of what you were presented with the 6.84. The
Okay,
difference between 6.84 and 3.7 is 555,780. So I don't think we need to go over that again.
okay,
Let me
Well,
let me just respond to some of the comments. I could bring it down to under 2. Absolutely. But your staff and your financial people are saying that you need to raise, regardless of what you think, you have existing expenditures that you need to make, and there's some discretionary expenditures you don't need to make, but there's certain expenditures that you need to make, and you need to get your expenditure levels up to a point where it's sustainable. So my recommendation, I can get it down to 0, but my recommendation is that you're hurting yourself next year. And if you just think year in, year out, you're going to blow up eventually. And so You know, I put that on the record that you're going to end up having much larger increases unless you start coming together strategically and deciding strategically where you want to go with West Nipissing and what you want to do, because you're kind of all over without having gotten together. But what I have heard from what everybody wanted, you know, and the pine poultry was also discussed by more than just Councillor Larrabee. You know, this is a way to get what you want done with an acceptable level, taxation level for future. I could dip in and, you know, I don't think there's a ton to cut on other issues. And then when staff asks for other people, it's because they need other people. It's not because, you know, it's because we're inefficient and ineffective at the staffing level, you know, and the organization is evolving to the degree that we cannot continue to do the same work in the same way. So when we make those asks, it's the same thing as asking to redo a road. HR is a resource as well, and we need to basically have the appropriate resources to meet our public's needs. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for the answer. So it gives us an overview that the 555,000 is everything else that was in the budget, spread over all the departments based on what was identified as far as request, right?
But Mayor, can I ask questions, because he answered all his comment was toward all my my comment or my things. I agree with you, Jay. There's things that we're not trying to cut everything. We're talking about, if we put it at 1.7, we're talking 2%. So most of the thing that is there will be done, but there's things that I firmly believe that don't need to be done this year. And it's not because we don't care. Like I'm siding with Conseiller Yvon. I mean, wait a couple of years with all the house and 20%, and I know something because I lived it. That the percentage of the assessment of the house going to go drastically out in the next couple of years, and that's meaning automatically an increase in tax, because our tax is not our tax, but well, how we're going to be able to cut G. I know that's the assessment. That's not the same thing. Doesn't mean that.
Well, yeah, but if you make a comment publicly, I'd like to either correct it or explain it.
Okay, you can.
If you have you're catching a certain amount per house. If your assessment rises all over because our market's doing really, really well, then the tax rate is going to go down proportionately. We don't keep the tax at the same level and grab additional money unless it's needed to fund our operations. So increased assessment from existing homes, we really don't grab. We do grab, and we're very successful lately. We grab increased assessment by new construction and new builds, and that's newfound money. That we grab. The other stuff, the argument about houses going up, no.
Okay, no, I can take that and accept that.
Okay, so what I was doing in fairness is everyone had their say, and I see that Conseiller Denis had his hand up, and I want to be able to hear what Conseiller Denis has to say.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think everything has been said, but I'll rehash a little bit of what I'm thinking. And I'll go first with the pine poultry, which was supposed to be a bargaining chip for the garage in Verner. So we agreed to pine poultry if the garage was cut out. Now we have both in the budget, and that seems to be throughout the budget. So what we need to do is look at that 555,000, go through it like we were promised to go through it at the end, as usual. And we need to go there and find, I think it's 350 grand somehow, because there's no way that we're going at 3.7. There's no way. I'm not going to go over 2%. So we need to find some savings. And I think personally, there's lots of places to find savings in the budget. It's just to look at it from a different perspective, I guess. But we have people that we have to backlog their taxes because they can't afford it right now, and we're thinking 3.7 is good. There's no way we can do this. beyond what our constituents are expecting from us. We have to do a little more work here. So let's go back and rehash and find some savings. I think if I'm not wrong, it's 350,000 that we need to go through, about 2%. And even that is high. So I know it's our job to go down, and I know staff always wants more money, and that's their job, and I don't blame them. But we're council, and we're looking out for the residents, and 3.7 is unacceptable. There's no way we can go there. So my comment is let's rehash and go back and find some savings. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Chris, Councillor Yvon, I also have comments, but I'm just going to wait until Councillor Chris and Councillor Yvon are done.
So I just wanted to comment that no, we don't own the field school yet, but it's going for tax sale. We will own it in a couple months, and something, you know, we're going to have to do something about it. So rather than take the entire hit next year, let's see a little bit in reserve for it. In terms of Denis wanting to you know, find a couple percent, well, fine. Let's do the bridge next year. Let's just put half of the money for the bridge in reserve, and we'll look after the bridge next year, and then he can get his wish. I'm okay with the budget as it is. Thank you.
Okay, well, point of clarification for the school and field, this would be news to all of council to say that we're going to be owning that school, that building this year, because my understanding is when we had that discussion, it was going for a tax sale. We were told it was a lengthy process, and once the process would be done, council would be updated, and at that point, council would have options. We'd have the option to go back for a second tax sale. We'd have the option to vet the building or just walk away from the building. We don't own that building right now, and I'm not, I was never made aware that we would own that building by this summer. Alyssa, would that be correct?
There isn't a, well, I can.
Well, I'm asking the question based on the discussion that we had for the.
You're right. You're right on the options. There isn't an automatic that you would own the building. There is an assumption that you wanted to fix the field issue once and for all. And the timeline then, the earliest timeline that it could be vested to the municipality would be around May, June of this year.
Okay. And then we were told that to demolish that building, there would be an estimated cost of $600,000. That's what we were told last year. I don't know if it was the same amount for this year, but that's $600,000 of your tax dollars for a building that we don't own, where we have some infrastructure that we do own, that we do need to repair and upgrade. And I've heard that comment come up a few times, and maybe that would be one project that we should make a decision right now on who wishes to maintain and put money aside in reserve for a building that we don't know what the future ownership of that building will be.
Can I speak first? So I don't quite understand what you mean. That is a building in the municipality. It's not like it belongs to somebody, even if it doesn't belong to anybody. It's ours. Like it's
no, it's not ours, Councillor Chris.
It's our responsibility. No, okay. It's our responsibility. It is our building.
I'm clarifying the point that the building is not owned by the municipality. And I guess I'm going to ask the CEO a straightforward question. Is the building owned by this municipality? Because people are listening to this meeting. And even here, I'm being asked that question from time to time. Who owns the building? The municipality does not own that building. Well, and I wish to get an answer on yes or no, do we own that building?
Right, those are leading questions, but I'll tell you right now, we don't own the building. That's a leading question.
And I just wanted to make sure that it's clarified so no one is confused with the issue pertaining to l'école Sainte-Marie de Field.
The issue,
and I guess, and if I may ask that question, because that was an issue that It's being brought up by some members of council. It's based on the recommendation that we put $100,000 in reserve for a building that we presently don't own. And I'd like to know what would be the direction of council if they wish to put that money in reserve for the démolition de la bâtisse qu'on n'appartient pas. And I think it's fair to ask the question.
I'd like to make a comment. I've had my hand up for 5 minutes.
I've seen your hand up, Conseiller Dan.
Okay, may I make my comment then?
Yes, please
Thank you.
proceed, make your comment.
Thank you very much. The Sands Hotel, Sands Motel in North Bay is not owned by the city of North Bay. The city of North Bay took it upon themselves to tear it down because it's an eyesore. I think that what we're doing here is you're just pushing it off and you're not letting the people of Field have their right. There is no other building in this community that looks like that. So in my opinion, and my recommendation is that we do put the $100,000, because regardless, the Sands Motel in North Bay, the municipality didn't own it, but they took the responsibility to tear it down. And I'd like to put it on the record.
And what I'd like to put on record is going for tax sale. We're going to see what the outcome is going to be of that tax sale. We're going to see if we get any offers, and we have options that are going to be available depending on the outcome of the tax sale. So we're talking about budget, and we're talking about the proposed 3.7. I appreciate the recommendation from staff. They're coming from the administrative point, but they've been hearing from council pertaining to various issues. But if council is going to give a direction to staff and make a decision on this budget, that's why I'm asking the question. I also right now am not supportive of putting 100,000 in reserve for a project where there might be options and there were legal issues that were being verified pertaining to that actual building. So is it poor planning? Maybe not. And what we need to make a decision, and I'm asking members of council, who wishes to support putting 100,000 in reserve for that building that we presently don't own and that we know that there is pending options?
I have another comment, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Lise.
Well, the thing is, I mean, it's nice North Bay, but North Bay did not to be able to demolish that building, they needed to avail it. And correct me if I'm wrong. So those decisions are not taken at this point of time. Well, Councillor Ravida, then we get, different because we know that before that the municipality took over some, but they need to make decision. Council need to make decision if they want to take over a building or whatever that don't belong to them. So that's clear that it's a council decision. So at this point of time, and why are we always trying to compare ourselves to North Bay? We're West Nipissing. And I mean, I know their petition was signed. I know that's an issue, but I mean, if that petition, for example, had say that it might cost up to $600,000 to demolish and the taxpayer going to be paying for that, believe me that I know some residents that call me when they find that out and say, well, no, I signed the petition but they never told that information. So at this point of time, I think you don't need to take that vote today, but it had to be brought up to the table and council need to make a decision first if they are in support of that $100,000 for this year budget. That's the question of the hours. The rest will be further discussed at the council meeting.
Well, we're in budget right now, so I guess I'm hearing that question, that comment surface, pertaining to the school, and there's a proposition on the table to put 100,000 in reserve for the demolition of the building, which we don't know, or there's pending information to come back to council at a future date pertaining to the outcome of the tax sale. So I'm asking the question, and I think, that to be able to move the process forward, we all have a difference in opinion. And Jay, I see your hand is coming up, but, we're talking about, what's the comment, Jay?
But thanks. Just before you start going one at a time like that, I'm just letting you know politically, that you're raising the specter of going one off, and what I'm trying to do is get some sort of consensus where everybody has, and I can get the 3.7 down if there isn't a consensus to do that. What I need is 5 votes at the end of the day in a resolution to get an expenditure level. And if what I'm going to see here is that there's going to be some trade-offs and people voting against a bridge when they had an opportunity, voting against whatever. So all I'm saying is when I give you a package as a total, I'm looking at it to try and satisfy people in understanding that everybody's going to have different views. You already heard Councillor Fisher play off now Councillor Senecal with a bridge. I'm seeing this as potential opportunity for everything, and I would hope that we don't get into this nickel and diming and ending up 4-4 because you vote, Your Worship, but because nothing's going to get done and we won't get a budget. So just careful.
Well, the goal is to get a budget. The goal is to get a budget as low as possible. I know some support the 3.7 and support everything that's been recommended by staff, and great, staff came back with recommendation. I'm sitting here, our 7th meeting. There's some issues I don't support. I've never had the opportunity to say so because we waited to receive all the information of all departments. And personally myself, I want to keep it below 2%. I want to be able to focus on what are the priorities. And the reason why I say less than 2%, with COVID last year, COVID this year, we can call it, a recession. You look at the business sector, you look at the hardship of individuals that have not been employed or lost revenues for a certain period of time. And I want to focus on affordability and what we own and what are the priorities. And I think everyone has that prerogative. And there's some initiatives here that I say, not that I don't believe in the project, but I definitely would want more information regarding the project and looking at opportunities that it doesn't have to be tax-based at 100%. So where do we have a say as members of council to say what we agree with and what we don't agree with? And it shouldn't be, are we going to try to balance a trade-off? Because if you support my project, I'll support your project. I mean, we're going to be subsidizing priorities that, are they priorities for this year? Are they going to make a difference for the taxpayers this year? Maybe not. That's my personal opinion, but we need to have an opportunity to say what we support and not support. Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Yvon.
I just want to agree with Jay. I think it is dangerous ground because, like it or not, we're here to at the service of our constituents. Now, from my standpoint, of course, I'm going to trade things off. That's how it works. And if you're looking for to cut it down to 2%, then fine, no bridge. From my perspective, from a people who live in field perspective, if we want to go down this road, does Belanger need to be tarmac? Why can't that be a dirt road? We've got plenty of dirt roads. And once you start this game, it doesn't stop. So that's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Conseiller Denis.
Yvon qui était first.
Oh, sorry, Conseiller Yvon. You're on mute, Conseiller Yvon.
Merci, Madame Mairesse. When Sean Lamiel made his presentation to us, he made a list that I thought was reasonable. And he had put some projects to follow for next year as capital projects. And one of those projects was Pine Poultry Road. And he recommends that it should be done for next year. But he understands that there are some areas in the road that has to be looked at. And he did mention also that he could fix that for this year somewhat so that next year we can do that project fully. And not leave the road in a situation where the people will get stuck or whatnot, but the project would definitely be done for next year. And that was a recommendation he made. And also he made a recommendation about the patching as well. So those are 2 projects that, other than making sure that the road is passable, we can hold these projects back till next year as recommended by Sean.
So
That's all.
if I can respond to that, because I have to in order to move things forward. Yes, if we didn't get Councillor Yvon another $850,000 announced last year, so I'm not recommending doing the additional stuff through taxes. Basically it's one-time funding now. It's on his list. So what I'm doing is knocking projects off of his next year's list with free money. It's gas tax money. It's not even tax money. So if you look at those lists, I'm taking gas tax money for pine poultry and patching and the bridge. So I'm not affecting your tax rate. If you want me to get your tax rate under 2%, I can come back to you with proposals to get it under 2%. You want to politicize cutting expenditures, that's fine, but I don't see a cohesive group here of people that have gotten together to determine what strategic direction they wanted to do this term either. And so it's very hard for staff to be, chasing windmills here. But if you want me to get it at the 2% mark, I'll get it at the 2% mark and we can be done. But if you want to start nickel and diming stuff, that's fine. But, it's a waste of time.
No, it's just a supplement to that. Well, I wasn't nickel and diming. It was a recommendation made to council when the presentation was.
No, you're not nickel and diming, not on your stuff. No, my only response to you, Councillor Yvon, was that the only reason I've added it over Sean's list is because we had additional money as well. That's all.
Okay. I understand that. But the fact of the matter is we're looking for avenues to reduce the amount that we have. And it was just one area that we can use that would certainly help us. And not leaving everybody in this disarray. Sean would have taken the care of the road where it need be, But anyway, I understand what you're saying.
Conseiller Denis.
Well, first of all, Madam Mayor, I don't really like being attacked for my bridge that they call my bridge. It's my residence bridge. And I just want to clarify for the residents that are listening that the Nature Trail Bridge is a gas tax issue, like Jay just said. It doesn't go into the budget. It's not like the school that wants 100,000 in surplus. That affects our budget. And I just want to reiterate that the Nature Trail Bridge is a gas tax. It's not in a budget item, really. That's what I'm trying to relay. And I wish that councillor would stop using the bridge as a lever. Thank you.
Conseiller Alice.
Well, and this is, and I do resent some comment that was made and that exchange and we do this and we do that, because I think when it comes to the school, I think most of us have voiced our thought about that so far. And I mean, and I will not, and coming back on Bélanger, I don't feel intimidated with that because it was there last year. So if that's used for that purpose, and believe me, I'm not saying that, but this is what it sounds anyways, because it was brought up the first meeting. Bélanger was in the plan last year. It would have been done last year, but there were technical issues that it did not happen. So at this point of time, I don't feel, if you want to threatening, if that's the way it is, it's okay. But I mean, I don't have an issue like that. I'm just looking, and Jay, you're right. You can go back and you could put it down to 2% because I know you can do it. That's not an issue either, Jay. But I think there's things that have been identified that can wait till next year and do the thing. And I agree with Poultry Road that it's tax money. We have that money there. Let's do it. So that's a saving for 2021. And the bridge it's there. It's a gift that we got. So let's do that. Let's look at the budget item that we're not in a kind of agreement and try to figure it out. We're talking about maybe it's not a big major cut. Most of the thing will be done anyways. So that's my thought, and that's it.
Okay, Conseiller Rowley.
Okay, well, thank you, Madam Mayor. It seems like, the school is definitely a challenge. So let's put the school aside. What else? Because what I see from this budget here, it has a little bit for everyone. So taking the school out of the equation, what else would you like to see cut and on this budget? So we can come to a consensus and pass this budget.
Okay. I'll give you food for thought right after, if I can leave Conseiller Dan because he has his hand up for a comment.
Yeah, I have a comment because the fact is Councillor Lees is alluding to the fact that we can push things to next year. What we know right now is what we know. This is the money we have. If we don't do some of these major projects this year, we'll never be able to do it. And we've got to come to census on this. There's going to be some big, don't lift up your hands, Madame Syndicat. You always basically say that to me. Be a little bit more polite. There's a politeness around the table when we discuss things. So the point being is that what we know, we have in front of us. There's no surprises. I think that we should just move forward and get this done, because the point is that next year is going to bring many, many surprises, and we're not going to be in a good position next year. And I don't want to scare people, but the point is that there's things that like the health unit and DSAB that might be coming back with some substantial increases, and we'll have no choice in the matter. They'll send us a bill. That's it.
Okay. So what I've been hearing right now, there's no impoliteness by asking questions and stating their position. Anyone can state their position. Maybe not everyone agrees with the position.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. My comment.
What's your point of order?
My point of order is this, that Councillor Lees was waving her hands and going with this with her head. That was my comment. It had nothing to do about the questions. And the point is I feel that that's not being polite. That's my point. So
okay.
Would you please,
Conseiller Dan, I'm going to rule on your point of order. I've seen a lot of distractions so far, and it's not a violation of anything in your procedural bylaw. So you know what? There was no rudeness. But coming back to the Conseiller Rowley, I want to be able to move forward, because at the end of the day, we got the documentation, we went through the workbooks, we got some excellent feedback from staff, clarification, and we also got recommendation. But there's also the opportunity for members of council to have their say in what they would support and not support, so we can move forward with a reasonable tax increase. Now, maybe I'm going to simplify it by starting with departments that had nothing contentious. We all agree with the fire department, with what was proposed, and also with the increase in reserve for future equipment replenishment. Am I correct with that? We're fine with fire? Can I see some direction? Lift your hands. Fire department, we're okay with that one? We're okay with planning? Because I don't recall hearing any questions or needing any clarification with planning. Are we fine with the planning budget? Okay.
Madam Mayor, may I caution you that not everybody's raising their hand, and I think it's got to be clear that you say who's for it or not for it, because people might not raise their hand. I don't think it's the right way to do it. Sorry.
Okay, coming to the last two departments that I've identified, everyone is in agreement with that. Was there anything contentious? Can I see a show of hands, please? Okay. Now we're moving on to economic development. There were the issue of $50,000, 25,000 project, 25 community initiative. There was a recommendation to cut back on the 25. Staff is recommending to keep it in there. What I heard through the budget deliberation is that there's already money in community services for community initiatives. It was identified twice, and it's seed money in the event that it's required. I'm going with the easy ones. And I sit on ECDEV, Conseiller Lees sit on ECDEV, and we both recommended that 25,000 can be removed from that budget. Staff is saying keep it in.
Well, if you want to reduce it, that's fine. The only thing.
Well, that's what I'm asking, Jay. I'm doing a round table to try to streamline the process so we can move
And
forward.
I'm trying to help you with your budgeting. So if you just allow me, if you're going to reduce things, my concern or caution to you as a general nature is just be aware that it's a little bit like pay as you go then, is that if you start reducing things that are there or requested theoretically, it's very difficult to bring them back after. So you're making a recommendation in essence to downsize going forward, because there's no guarantee that you can bring those expenses back in a year where you have to find other priorities. So I'm just cautioning you on how on that method. That's all.
And that's a great point. But with EdDev, we've brought forward the hiring of a new full-time person. We've put money in the bank to do 2 feasibility studies this year. We've put money in the, we also have money for community projects. So there's a recommendation, for this budget for this year, instead of keeping that extra 25,000 in EdDev, to remove that 25,000.
Can I speak on this?
Yes, Conseiller Chris.
So I haven't spoken on this. I just, it went by last time I heard the conversation. So to my mind, if we're hiring somebody to take a position, we're kind of handcuffing them if we don't give them at least a few dollars. And like, I can think right now in my community, something that, something that could be done, economic development, a few $1,000s. And if I can't take that to the, if I could take that and there's no money for that kind of thing, I think we're lost. So I completely think we should keep it, because if we're gonna hire the position and we're gonna be serious about this, we need to fund it. Thank you.
Okay, but if I want to clarify that, I just want to clarify, we put money to hire someone. We've put money for 2 feasibility study. There is 25,000 for community projects, but there's also 25,000 for community initiatives, which those initiatives have not been identified, nor have the projects been identified. So we're already in the month of April, and we're just saying the reality of what can be done in 2020, and you already have 25,000 for community projects. So if we're looking at ways of how we can reduce it, we can debate it all we want. One will say, I'm in favor. The other one will say, I'm not in favor, but it's on the list. It was an issue that was brought up as contentious. Is there an opportunity to see what's the direction of council on this 25,000? Do we keep it or do we remove it? I'm trying to start with simple budget departments to start off with. Conseiller Lise, Conseiller Dan. Conseiller Lise, you're on mute.
Okay, so after year, by the time they hire someone, it would be we're what in April next, very soon, this week. I mean, I understand that, yes, if it's there, it will remain there, and it's a base. But I think one of the major roles that our economic development will have also is to find money for those small projects. So right now we got 6 months, 25,000 plus money that the people can ask that we have in the community services for initiative and project to, if they have something to do in the next 6 months. There's a third wave coming in. That's clear. So what is the chance that's going to be big rally, a big thing happening this year? Not much. And like I said, and one of the reasons I completely support the economic development, obviously, but that would be part of that job that we get money. We're missing out on so much money for whatever reason. So, I mean, so I don't want to cut them. I'm not cutting all them, but there's reality also. And those are the things we can play with it.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the question, show me who wants to keep that $25,000. Well, Conseiller Dan, I'm asking a question, because if I'm not asking questions and to get an answer, we're not going to get anywhere.
I haven't had a chance to make a comment. I had my hand up 5 minutes again.
Conseiller Dan, what's your comment?
Okay, thank you. My comment is the following. The $25,000 is seed money. And Councillor Lees, you are right that they can find other monies, but there's sometimes you need leverage money. Most of the programs are stacking programs. So if you have no money to stack there, then you're not going to be able to initiate other funds. The $25,000 is a minimal. And secondly, I'd like to know whether that's your opinion and the mayor's opinion, and it was not the board's opinion. Did the board decide that they didn't want the 25,000? Because it seems that that's what you're saying on behalf of the board.
Conseiller Lees?
This is not what I'm saying at all. And I'm going to tell you, Councillor Rivida, that I even was very straightforward with the community that I would not support. I would not be able to support that, because when I come and sit at the table, my hat is councillor. It's not ED member. So they were advised that I would not support it. And I think the mayor made it very clear also. So no, I'm not playing game and I'm not speaking for anybody. And I want to apologize for my gesture that I did, the councillor. It's not because of a lack of respect, more than a lack of frustration. And you should know, because you've been told not to shut your video and not to do so also. So I do apologize for that, Councillor Dan.
I take exception to that. Because the point is, that was the past.
Dan, please address it through the chair, please.
Point of order.
What is your point of order?
My point of order is Councillor Lees did not have to make the comment of the past about the closing of the my screen. I would like that to be retracted.
And I will not ask Conseiller Lees to retract it. I mean, this is going beyond you know what, the focus of dealing with the budget right now.
Madam Mayor, I want you I'm not going to ask you to make the decision. I won't retract that comment, because we're going back and forth all the time to think that happened in the past. Thank you.
Okay, Conseiller Lees.
And we need a break, please. Can I recommend, if everybody's in agreement, that we keep our discussion after the break?
Sure. Can I just make one governance statement to be consistent? If you're doing straw poll votes, you're only voting to change what was tabled. You have to watch how you're framing your questions. If there's something that's there, you say, is there a vote to change it? Now, I know that you guys are doing the 4-4 thing. My recommendation is that if there are two people that suggested taking the 25 out and you're looking for cost savings, if you want to run, different things by staff, since those are incremental and don't affect us, we don't have a problem at the staff level if you want to reduce that 25,000 to, it's a step getting the 3.7 down. So I'm just saying that, but just be careful how you phrase your questions, that it's, if something's already been tabled, you're voting to change it, not to say whether it stays.
Okay, but Jay, I wish to clarify, it's being presented in the budget. Do we want to keep it in the budget? Yes or no? Okay. And I mean, how it's being phrased, at the end of the day, people are going to be asked to vote on the budget, and we're not doing the 4-4 thing. But I mean, if there are issues that are contentious, and this is a budget also that council has to agree with, and what they're going to be funding and not funding, and where they see their priorities.
I'm just trying to help you get through your budget.
And
the way you're going, it won't work.
Well, the way I'm going, it's not going to work, because at the end of the day, everything that's been presented so far has been presented that we're going to grab it from surplus or with the extra funding that we have, but it doesn't necessarily mean that all projects were supported at 100% when they were presented to council. So I mean, there has to be room, and I would recommend this for next year's budget as we move forward. And if there are issues that we don't agree with, maybe council at that point should highlight it instead of waiting till the end. Because this is the same dilemma that we're in right now as what we were last year, after the entire presentation and debating the issue. And it's not a pleasant situation. Because,
I didn't get a dilemma last year.
Well, we had that dilemma. We had that dilemma.
You voted
and
for
I'm not going to get
into
into an argument with that. We waited for everything to be presented, and we're in the same situation this year. So I see Councillor Chris's hand is up. Probably he's volunteering for a 15-minute recess health
Well,
break.
I am that too, but I do have 2 points. I haven't really said, but okay, so everybody wants the budget low. I understand that. The reason I support it at 3.7 is because I have a real genuine concern that if we go low this year, next year, stuff's gonna happen and we're gonna be operating on a shoestring again, and we're gonna have no choice but to hit the public with a real tax increase. And that's why this is why I'm concerned about reserves, and really that we have a policy, a tax policy, which some people have, by the way, and reserve policies and that kind of thing, so that we are smoothing taxes for people, so that, you know, a bridge collapses and we don't have to have you know, a $3 million tax increase or whatever. My next question is, I just so I can some clarity on this economic development, $25,000. Are you guys saying that you and Liz don't support it, but the Economic Development Board does? Is that what you guys are telling me?
Okay, just a second here. I'm going to clarify it. We were presented the budget, new hire, feasibility study, 2 studies that we want to undertake this year. There was also one for community projects and one for community initiatives. The projects, initiatives were not identified. There was 25,000 for community projects. In the event something comes forward that we can use as leverage, as seed money, or explore opportunities within the municipality. The initiative was sort of in the event that we want to plan something, okay, but nothing definitive. But then community services also had $25,000 for that same reason. So we're saying there's 2 of them here. So there's an opportunity that you can remove one. And to be honest, we're already almost halfway through the year. How much are you going to accomplish in 2020 when we're in COVID and when we have restrictions and not knowing when we're going to be out of the framework and what's going to happen from now to the upcoming months? So some believe it should stay there. Some believe it should not stay there. Contentious, call it to a vote. So, Conseiller Chris, you volunteered for the resolution for a 15-minute recess. Is there another volunteer? Conseiller Yvon?
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Dubé. At approximately 2:30 p.m., a motion is tabled for a 15-minute recess.
Okay, all in favor? Carried, adopted. Okay, so we're live, we're back, on continue. Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Rowley.
So I guess I got two things. One, so I don't view community projects in community services and community projects in economic development as the same thing. And I didn't quite get a straight answer. You and Lise do not want the community projects in economic development, but the board does. Is that a yes or a no?
You know what? When that was presented to the board, the budget was already set and it was agreed by the chair and our ECDEV officer. It was presented to them based on feedback from individual members. The budget was set, and when it was presented to the board, there were questions, and that question came up. And as a board member and as an elected official, that's wearing two hats, and that was clearly articulated to the board. So is it a secret? No, it's not a secret. It was identified, okay? Because there's 50,000 in ECDEV for two different line items. I'm just saying, based on the priorities and from having a budget for Economic Development Authority based on priorities is a big step forward than what we had last year.
Okay, so the second thing I want to say. So, you know, I understand that people want lower taxes, and you know, I've made my concerns known. By lowering taxes too much, we're going to hurt people down the road. Having said that, I think we're going about this a bit wrong. So, you know, I'm okay to step back on that $100,000 for the school, but, you know, I'm going to argue and I'm going to really bug everybody for the next, as long as I'm able, then that school's going to come down. That's what, you know, that's one of my reasons to live. But I'm okay with that. And if we want to say, you know, I don't want to get into the weeds on what the priorities are, because the staff have already put the priorities for us. So I'm going to step back and say, okay, let's send Jay away, or send staff away, and come back and give us a budget that's, I don't know, whatever we can agree on. Give us a budget that's 2.5 or 2.9 or some happy medium, so we can get this done and we can do things around in the community. So that's just putting that out there. Thank you.
Conseiller Rowley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess Councilor Chris just stole that there for me. It's it seems. Listen, there's going to be 4-4 all the way, and we're not going to accomplish much here. So, what if Jay? Question would be to Jay. How can we get this? It seems there's like to have 2%. So, what would we be looking at if we send it to you, Jay? As far as bring it down to 2%, what would you suggest? I know you've always been very good at raising a rabbit out of a hat. So let's see what you could come up with this time, Jay. Could I have an answer, please, Jay?
Sure. If you you know, if the two members of the ECDEV board you know, are making a recommendation to reduce the 25,000 there, and the 100,000, you know, there's 0.7 there, so you're down to slightly under 3. My recommendation, you know, at that point, barring anything else, would be to, you know, that I can get it down to 2% fairly easily. I made my point with respect to future finance and sustainability. But if those two things leave, then you're still, you know, we're still grabbing, you know, and there's still potentially other funding, but I'm not recommending that we go and cut any more from expenditures, because I don't think philosophically everybody is on the same page to do that. And I believe that you'd be causing yourself some problems going forward. I know some people either refuse to hear it or understand it, but if you do that, you're just killing yourselves in future years. So I can get it down to, if you want to get it to down to 2, I can get it down to 2 by doing that. But I think council needs to have a conversation about what that acceptable level is. And then otherwise, and being blunt, you guys aren't going to agree to a budget the way you're going. You're just not. This process is just flawed.
Subsequent to that, Mayor, is this is what I was getting at. I guess we're definitely not agreeing on this. So what if could we use some of the reserve? I guess we could, to bring it down to 2 if we're under 3 right now, and then that would maybe satisfy everyone around the table. Then we'd be down to 2.
Yes, you can.
And we would have everything for every award. So I think this would be a win-win.
Councillor Lise?
Well, I think Councillor Fisher, thank you for your suggestion. I would probably fight for something that I believe till the end also, like you would do. So I commend you for doing that, but obviously it's a council decision. So that $100,000, and Jay, remember that the first thought for the increase in reserve for community services of $200,000 that was clearly stated that was to put aside for the school in field. So right now, if we cut that $200,000 from the increase in the reserve, you're gonna get it anyways, general reserve, because we're gonna be putting $700,000 toward the reserve this year. So the 200 plus the 100, it's clear right now that we are under the tree. So, and you can have anything else that was proposed in that thing. So I would not have an issue with that. And I want to say that discussion started, and I think there were comment made that not all of us said, oh, you do this or you do that, or I don't want this, I don't want that. So you might insinuate, some of you might, I'm not saying that you're doing, obviously, and I don't want to put words in the mouth, but that all of us, because there's thing I was not in agreement, and I changed my mind when it was paid on with the tax gas. So I think if you do that, because you're gonna get that $200,000 in the reserve, because it's going to be general, not just specifically. And I would not support that either, because it was specifically said that it was toward the school. So we need to put that project, yes, we might have to do it one day if it's veiled to the municipality, but right now, and Councillor Fisher, again, I commend you, because you want something and you award and you think it's important. I have not an issue with that. But so you're talking $300,000 right now, and we could have anything else, the wish list that was provided by everybody. So Jay, I'm asking you, Jay, do you take?
Was there a question there?
Yeah, the question was, because if we cut it from the operation, which was the request, and we had brought up some concern about it that we did not, you're gonna get it anyways in the general reserve, the 200,000 extra.
No, it's a reverse.
So
That's the reverse.
Well, the thing is, the tax gas that we had, that bonus now was not on the table at that point of time. So we would have to cut a lot more than we're cutting right now.
Right. So, but to give your argument in reverse, the memo that I had was to put a dedicated reserve of $100,000 into a dedicated reserve. You are correct that there was also, and there might have been mentioned as an example, but there was also a request to increase in our budget the capital reserve for community services. And that's because we have a ton of buildings that need to be fixed, and we need to have the amount of annual monies available to fix them. Part of that could be down the line, a decision to to fund the school or do something like that, but I'm not 100% sure that it would come out of community services. But the point is that right now you have $125,000 reduction from the 3.7%. 125,000 is 0.7 of a point, so you're under 3. And if you ask me to get it to 2, to have some sort of a consensus, because at the end of the day, all I want is a vote with 5 hands up at a council meeting, so we can actually get on with doing the business of running the municipality.
And if I may, the other issue that was identified as well, as far as wish list for new hires, other than the ECDev position, we were also told that in the upcoming weeks or upcoming months, we're going to have a HR report regarding the operational review, which will give us specific data regarding needs and complements of needs. I know that that request was asked for corporate services last year. It was declined and it's requested again this year. So that's one issue that I put a question mark beside. And I put a question mark beside any community projects which are funded at 100%, which is being requested to be funded by taxpayers without having further details brought forward to council. And I'm not confident at 100% that I would recommend to say that we support it without having more information. And there were questions, you know, pertaining to the rink, how much is in reserve, how much is not in reserve, reconfiguration of the project. It was supposed to come back forward to council. And if there's any opportunities for any funding through other agencies as well. So before we just run at 100 miles an hour and say we're going to be God to everything, I think there's issues that, you know what, does require further discussion even before saying we table all that money right now as a priority for 2021. Conseiller Alice, Conseiller Rowley. You're on mute, Conseiller.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe we could ask Jay to go back and look at that 555, like we got $100,000 that generously was, okay, I'll retract my request from Councillor Fisher, but to try to look at the whole 555 and whatever that you, and come back with some of the things that you can take away. And it's not going to be much, like you said.
Okay.
Is there a vote on anything you guys are talking about? Because I don't know.
Because I don't think we're ready to vote for budget.
Oh, okay, well, that's a simple, yeah, but you vote on everything else. All right.
But,
The issue, okay, so if I, yeah, well, because it's frustrating. So the issue that I would have, and if you want to talk about the operational review, we're spending some consulting fees right now and spending some fees on HR consolidation. And I can tell you ahead of time, and it will be coming shortly, that the consultant's operational review report says is that where we're lacking is with internal centralized HR expertise or in corporate services expertise. So that will be coming. And what I could tell you is that we spend a lot of our time, I as CAO, Lisa as Director of Corporate Services, doing a lot of labor relations stuff and so on and so forth. That would free up a ton of expensive time to be able to do other stuff. So we strongly believe that to evolve this municipality and not wait an entire year, that we need that position in corporate services. So if you want to take it out, that's fine. But we're going to say on the record that, you know, things are different. We've got people that are leaving, people that are on sick leave, and so on and so forth. It's very difficult to maintain the level of managing this organization with the resources that we presently have. So.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I can understand that. And we'll see, you know, what the operational review will identify. And, you know, based on information that we get, then we'll put a plan in place on how we can achieve it. Conseiller Leo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, like Councillor Larrabee just suggested, we can bring it back to bring it down to 2% and do all the stuff that was recommended by staff. And I don't know, I think we're getting nowhere. And I don't know, maybe we should leave, because I mean, there was a suggestion that I like, and I think we can get there.
Mm-hmm. So, and I like that suggestion as well, because staff can go back to the drawing board as long as we can identify, you know, the percentage. Why Jay's saying no, but I just wanted to highlight what were my concerns. Everyone had their say as well. And on the flip side, and this is going to be ironic in a way, I had brought up the issue of bylaw enforcement because I wanted to have sort of an activity report because I wanted to see if there was a need to increase the footbeat downtown and throughout the municipality when it comes to littering, when it comes to dog poop, and if there was a need to increase hours for bylaw enforcement. That was one issue that I wanted to address in this budget. That's why I highlighted that. And one of the issues that I was concerned with was the vehicle. We spent 13,000 for maintenance last year, forecasted 6,000 this year. I wanted to see if there was a need, if it was more financially feasible to buy a new vehicle instead of spending $20,000 in maintenance for a vehicle. That to me is telling me that, you know what, probably it's overdue and let's not stretch it. But that was on the flip side. So what I'm hearing now is that not everyone is in agreement with 3.7. I heard less than 2. I heard Conseiller Ali say down to 2. I heard Conseiller Denis and Conseiller Yvon say less than 2. And from the discussion that we had, we're not all in agreement with everything that's being proposed, but would everyone feel comfortable that we give it back to staff? They can go back, review it, and come back with an updated recommendation for Wednesday meeting. Would everyone agree to that? Can I see a show of hand or a nod of yes?
Can I ask a question first?
Okay, well,
so my difficulty
can I just proceed in having some direction with that one question first?
Well,
and then
it pertains to the question. So the difficulty I have, if we just send staff away and say, get it down to this, but we're still not in agreement, then we're going to be no further ahead when they come back with a thing. If we could agree on some area where it's got to be, like if Arn says it's got to be 0.2%, and if, you know, because I am concerned about the long-term consequences of having the tax too low. So I'm on the upper end, and I understand everyone has different opinions, but if we could agree on some level that we can agree to, so that when we do come back, we have a better chance of success.
That was going to be my part 2 of my question, Conseiller Chris. So I just want to see if everyone was in agreement, A, that it goes back to staff for further recommendation for review and to bring back an updated report. And number 2 was going to be at what level, so we can have some type of consensus with that. Maybe I should have asked it reversed. Conseiller Yvon?
Madam Beres, if we can bring it down to 2, I'd be satisfied. Although I would have wished less, but in listening to what was said, I would agree with 2.
Madam Mayor, is a question?
Yes, Conseiller Leo.
You're asking for Wednesday. Is that enough time for staff? I mean, I don't know.
Well, number 1, our next budget meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, I believe. Is it Wednesday evening, Jay? Is it at 6 o'clock this upcoming Wednesday on March 31st?
I think it's, is it Wednesday evening or I think it's Wednesday afternoon?
I could be wrong with the time, but I remember seeing in our calendar that it was March 31st.
Yeah, I think it's in the afternoon.
Yes.
Wednesday, the 31st at 1.
At 1 o'clock. So,
I can get you a 2% solution with a few options by Wednesday at 2.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask the second part of the question. Is everyone in agreement to 2, or is it lower than 2?
Wow.
No, I'm asking the question. Okay, because if we're going to get.
Well,
So you had 4 that were at 3.7. I suggested going down to 2, and you have Councillor Duhame who indicated 2. You have 5 people there, so I
And I agree with 2.
Okay. So-
you're splitting. hairs.
Okay, no, that's okay. Like, I'm just asking because then if it comes back and it says, another number, that's why I want clarification. Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Dan.
So I do not agree to 2, but I agree with the process, and I will agree to 2 to move us forward. Thank you.
Conseiller Dan?
The 2% I can live with, but I think it's low because you're going to suffer the consequences next year. I would not want to take off if there's other ways of bringing it down to 2 without taking off the field 100,000 and the 25,000 for AgDev, if it's possible. But the thing is that, we have some of the situations here where we did discuss, we told staff to do it, and now we seem to be going back on it. And I have a problem with that.
Well, I'm sorry. I want to clarify that. We had a suggestion to bring it back to us, but we never had the discussion of what members of council or individual councillors were supporting and not supporting. And they need to be able to provide their feedback. And I clarified that question at the last meeting. Conseiller Lise, Conseiller Denis.
Well, the thing is that the last meeting, what I got, and by the way, now that I remember it, I have something for Alicia and Jay. When we talk about the police report, you were right. I went back to my note, and yes, it was to be discussed at a council meeting. And yes, there's $48,000 that was budgeted for this year. So I apologize for missing that point, and thank you for the information. But right now, I mean, what we need to discuss, and we said 2, and I was clear when I was taught it was clear that was recommended by Jay that he would go back and bring us back the list of things that we had discussed, and it was controversial or whatever. He brought back most of it, but there's something that was not brought up, and it's part of the 555, and so that's okay.
I don't understand 555.
Well, it's the last thing on your recommendation.
She
And
said
555,
Oh,
okay?
Okay.
Okay, Jay, that's it. So you did, but you put a bunch of stuff together. And I'm going to say, and I'm going to be very honest, I will not support $100,000 for something that we don't know if it's going to happen. That's it.
So
2% me, that's it.
my I don't want to debate on that, but when we come together and we put this document together, we got it from the clerk, we got it from the treasurer, we listed absolutely every discussion point that was brought during those meetings, and we brought them back. There is a list of other matters that don't affect the budget, as I indicated, and I can rhyme them off.
No, you're right.
But there's a list of more things that are going to go to a council meeting than there are for these. But the ones that affect the actual expenditure levels were the ones that were discussed and that didn't come to a consensus during that time were the ones that we brought back. That being said, what I'll be doing is going down, and there's water in your wine. Some people want whatever. I'm trying to pick an average so I can get to a vote to move on. My issue, very bluntly, is I heard 2%. Lise agreed to move up to 2%. She wanted lower. Councillor Duhaime, the same thing. I respect that. And then we have some councillors who wanted some higher than 3.7, and they brought it down. So we have, everybody's got something that they're not completely satisfied with, but that they can come to a consensus with, which is going to be around 2%. And I'll bring back a scenario that we believe from a finance perspective, because, you know, when you want to start cutting expenses, I'm okay with cutting expenses. I can find expenditure cuts. But what I want to do is have a council discussion, strategic discussion about what expenses going forward are you going to be doing? Because if you're just cutting now and then having to increase later, you're not doing anything. What business are you in? What business should you be in? Where do you want to go? And are we still in need of these expenses? Then cut them for sure. But, you know, to do it just like that doesn't work for me. So unless we have a good strategic discussion at the council table, which didn't happen, then, you know, this is what happens, is you got a bunch of people going all over the place and staff is trying to pick a middle ground. So next Wednesday or this Wednesday, I will come up with a expenditure level that hopefully is a good compromise from what everybody wants so that we can all vote yay or nay. And you're going to get some major wins from government windfalls this year that you wouldn't have had otherwise. So that's a good thing. Thank you.
Jose Denis?
Well, I just wanted to put it on record that I would be more comfortable with 1.7 in that range. I'm not two is, I think we can do a lot better than that, but I guess consensus will win. But my only issue is that while we were discussing this budget, we were told that at the end of the budget sessions, we would have a breakdown of what that let's say that 555,000. What are we voting for? We don't know. We were supposed to have, because we weren't allowed to ask some questions. It was deferred to the end of the budget meetings, and now we're just gonna not know what we're voting for. I'd like to see that 555. What's in there? What exactly is in there? And that's my point. Thank you.
Is that possible, Jay, to have a breakdown of what the $555,000 represent?
Jay, you cannot hear you, Jay.
Sorry, you're on mute, Jay.
The 555 represents, it's actually more than 555. It's basically what the increase represents and the incremental increases represent. So that's where the 55 is, and I'm saying it's funded from reserve. But if you actually take the total number in your budget, it's 6.84 times 177,000, which is about 1.1 million. And that was in your budget. The fact that I got it to 3.7 was an arbitrary number that no longer means anything, because now it's going to end up being that 555 now goes down to 2. So you're looking at about more like $900,000. So that 555 is an arbitrary number just to get it from 6.84 to 3.7.
Okay. I get that part. I think the issue is that there's a lot of money that's coming out that's going to be funded. The surplus is going to be funded. The increase is funded by our surplus, and I think there might be an appetite to have an understanding of exactly what that represents. So if we say we're taking 600,000 from surplus, that's to cover what increase in our budget for 2021. If that's doable, that would be greatly appreciated. Because let's not forget, we get to 2%, but what's being presented here, if we chopped, right now, we're going to be sitting at nearly 700,000 that's going to be taken out of reserve to be able to provide a 2% increase.
But you had 1.6 last year.
I know, last year, each year is unique. So I'm just.
So what you're spending, what you're taking out of this year's reserve was last year's taxes, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, we could always cut out all capital projects. That would be even lower for everyone. But I don't think that would be a smart way to do it. But it is a possibility.
Yeah, all the projects from community services.
Oh, and everything.
Well, you know what? Our community capital projects for public works exceeds that amount. And I think there is an expectation, as you stated in the past, that roads, sidewalks, and ditches are critical for individual traveler roads.
I also want you to think about the fact that your buildings that you're sitting in right now also need to be maintained.
Mm-hmm. So I think we all got to an agreement that for our next budget meeting, we'll get a report on recommendation options of how it can be brought down to 2%, and that majority of council is willing to support a 2%. That's my understanding, if I conclude it correctly. And that would be for Wednesday at 1 o'clock for our next meeting. Do I see any objections with that? Conseiller Yvon?
No objections. Thank you. I'm sorry, Madam Menace.
Oh, okay, I saw you raise your hand, that's why I just made reference. So isn't everyone in agreement with that? So I see yes.
But I
And
wanted to make a comment first. I had my hand up.
well, Conseil Dan, just a second here. I just want to ask staff, is it doable for Wednesday, Jay? It is? Pardon? You're, okay, ça veut dire oui, ça? Okay, Conseil Dan?
In most languages. Yeah.
Okay, and if not, let us know. Because we also have maybe, you know, if it needs to be deferred to Thursday this week, but you're saying yes, it's doable. Okay,
My comment
Conseil Dan?
that you cut me off. My comment was the following.
Conseil
My
Dan?
comment-
Conseil Dan?
Madam Mayor,
Just a second
I don't
here,
wanna
I am
argue-
chair, Conseil Dan, I did not intentionally cut you off, I was asking a question for staff to provide a response, and then please proceed, Conseil Dan.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. After being, again, you cut me off, and I want that as a statement made. The point being is that
Conseil,
I hope, no, let me continue. You're cutting me off again, Madam Mayor. That's not polite. My point is that if we all agree around the table at 2%, that we don't come back on Wednesday saying that we're gonna want to whittle it down at another percentage. That's my point.
point of order, Conseil Dan, the fact of alluding to the fact that, of being rude and cutting you off, out of respect, if you look at your procedural bylaw, unwelcome remarks is clearly identified in your code of conduct. And please, this is the chair that you are addressing, and please wait until the chair provides you the floor to be able to address your comment. Thank you. And
Point
I
of order on
saw,
that comment, Madam Mayor.
Conseil Dan, what is your point of order? And your
My
point
point
of
of
order?
order is that I should not be lectured on the code of conduct when I fully know the code of conduct. All I am saying is that I was interrupted. I had my train of thought interrupted. That's all I'm saying, Madam Mayor.
Your point of order is overruled. You need to wait until the chair provides you with the floor to be able to address the floor. Thank you. Conseil Elise?
Well, that's
And-
it. This is exactly what I was saying, because you were asking a question and going around, and that's, I think if we look at interruption and we go back on the video, that's going to be very clear. So anyways,
For your
my
comment,
point is, I have a
Elise?
question for Jay. I have a question for Jay. Before you, did we vote on that? I think we voted 5. It was,
Well, I
that's
was
it.
getting, number one, I wanted to make sure that it was conducive to staff, that they would be able to generate the
Yes.
report for council for Wednesday at 1 o'clock, and Jay was saying yes.
Yes, it is very possible.
Okay, thank you. Conseil Rowley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted clarification. Budget, is that part of general government? That would be under, that would be under general government?
Well, budget has always been general government, so what's your
Okay,
question?
well, then that
Councillor Rowley?
should that not be passed over to Councillor Lees, since he's chair of general government?
The chair asked the mayor to proceed with the generic discussion of this budget meeting.
That
So
was
you
not-
know what?
That was not.
I'm providing you the answer to the question based on the recommendation of the chair it was to proceed in chairing this general meeting to review the document. Thank you, Conseil Rowley. Conseil Elise?
well, to clarify that I chaired a meeting that was corporate services, which is general government. And at the end of the day, nobody mentioned since day one, and we have 7 meetings. So at this point of time, like we have a seat that is vacant. And so there's a couple. So I mean, this is irrelevant. So can I have my question to Monsieur Barbeau, please? Jay,
Yes,
Jay, where
Elise.
are you, Jay? Jay, can you tell me, On a lighter way, could you tell me, Jay, if you have an ID or maybe Alicia or somebody, because we need to deal with water also. So it's okay to say 2% with our budget, but I mean, if we got a 5% increase on water, that would make a difference, right? Not 5%, but you know what I mean. So is it possible to have maybe a little bit of ID what the water and sewer would be increased would be? No.
No,
When
I
are we
don't.
gonna?
I have a meeting with Peter and Elisa tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And so my initial meeting is with them. I've met the environmental services people. Have to call a meeting. We've just finalized that. I have to meet with the chair and that kind of thing. I don't know that there's anything very intimidating in the forecast for either of them, but no. But if there's anything that revises your assumptions, then obviously, until you'll be passing a resolution once everything is known.
Okay. No, it's just a question. Thank you. And change the air a little bit. Thank you very much, Jay.
Thank you for that question. And the last question that I had is also the levy that was proposed for the CT scan for the hospital. We had said that would be tabled during budget. Do we have a timeline? That's going to be also tabled.
We could, I really wanted to get to a municipal budget, and that could be, depending on how swimmingly Wednesday goes, we can put the CT scan on this Wednesday.
Okay, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so right now we gave direction to staff, 2% with options, recommendations. Stay tuned for water and sewer and for solid waste, and also for the levy for the CT scan for the general hospital. And we'll reconvene for next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Mileni?
We had that resolution that you had requested for.
That's right. Okay, so we're okay with budget for now?
Yeah.
I say yes, but I don't see anyone nodding. 2 people, 3, 4, okay, majority. Okay, so before adjourning the meeting, there's a resolution regarding the vaccine supply for the North Bay Parry Sound Health Unit District, and I'm going to let our clerk go through the resolution so we can discuss it and vote on the issue.
If I could just get a mover and a seconder, please.
Conseiller Leo, Conseiller Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Millett and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Whereas the municipality of West Nipissing is within the district of the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit, and whereas the health unit has received its first allocation of vaccine more than a month and a half later than Southern Ontario and Ottawa health regions, and whereas a vaccine allocation for the health unit has not increased over time to compensate for the delay in provision of the first vaccine allocation, and whereas COVID-19 transmission rates in Northern Ontario, as evidenced by the effective reproduction numbers RT, are amongst the highest in the province, and whereas due to the vaccine allocation, the health unit is still in phase 1 of the rollout, while the public health unit regions in Southern Ontario and Ottawa are in phase 2. And whereas 26.5% of the population of the Parry Sound District and 22.4% of the population of Nipissing District are aged 65 years or older, compared to 16.7% of all of Ontario. And whereas the delay in the health unit vaccine allocations is causing increase in inequities in the bookings of COVID-19 vaccination clinics, and whereas due to the vaccine allocation, Indigenous populations have not received their required allocation, be it therefore resolved that the West Nipissing municipality requests that the vaccine allocation be prioritized to public health unit regions that are still in phase 1 to enable them to catch up to those regions in Southern Ontario and Ottawa. And be it further resolved that this motion be forwarded to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Christine Elliott, Minister of Health, Vic Fideli, MPP Nipissing, Norm Miller, MPP Parry Sound, John Van Top, MPP Timiskaming Cochrane, Mayors Reeves within the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit Region or District, Ontario Boards of Health, and the Ontario Association of Local Public Health Agencies.
Okay, Just two issues I wanted to mention pertaining to the resolution. It's the identical resolution that's being presented to all 31 municipalities within the North Bay Parry Sound Health Unit District. Donc, c'est la même résolution qui a été présentée à toutes les municipalités, les 31 municipalités dans le district du bureau de santé de North Bay Parry Sound. And that was in conjunction in supporting Dr. Jim Cherico in advocating for additional vaccine for our district and to hopefully secure those vaccines so we can continue with the mass vaccination of our population based on priorities defined by the province. Are there any questions or comments pertaining to the resolution? Conseiller Dan?
In the resolution, I feel that, well, I don't feel, I noticed that there's no mention of the federal government. And there's no mention of putting pressure on our MP, Mark Sette, because if one was to read the local papers lately, more specifically the Nugget, it seems that the province were saying it was the feds level, and the feds are saying it's the province's level. So I'm just wondering how come there was no mention of the federal government, because for all in purpose, it's the federal government that provides the vaccinations to the provincial government.
So based on your comment, Conseiller Dan, excellent comment. Can we add a CC to our member of parliament as well and identify that we also seek the support of our federal government in working with our province and working with those affected and making sure that we get the supply and the number of vaccines required? So that, I'll ask the question, it would be a proposed amendment to the resolution. And that's a good point, because I think it should be highlighted within the resolution.
Madam Mayor?
Just a second here, we'll deal with, if we deal with a comment of Conseiller Dan and suggest that it's an amendment, then we need to deal with the amendment to the resolution.
Okay. But also, Madam Mayor, just Mr. Seri and also Mr. Rhoda from North Bay is in the same area, same district.
Okay, those could be CC'd, but with a comment that Conseiller Dan brought, that we add a comment in the resolution, also advocating with the federal government, with our local member of parliament within the district, so they can also work with our health unit district and the 31 municipalities in securing those vaccines. Would you all be in agreement with that proposed amendment? Can I see a show of hand? Okay, so that amendment would be carried.
I have a question though. Not that the amendment is perfect and it's true. It's completely, it comes from the federal first. So, but who started that? Who did that resolution? I'm just curious. Like, okay. It's coming from where?
Okay, the history of it is.
Well, not all. I just want to know, where did it start? I know that.
I was going to respond to your question. It derives from the first meeting of the municipal leaders with the North Bay Parry Sound Health Unit.
Okay, thank you.
So the amendment is approved. Are there any further questions pertaining to the actual resolution, and also making sure that we would CC our MP and CC the MP for the North Bay region, Anthony Rhoda, as well? So Mel, did you capture?
I did.
I saw you write, but I'm not too sure what was written down.
I had included that Mark Sette, MP, to Miskman Cochrane, Anthony Rhoda, and also to advocate with the federal government to work with the 31 member municipalities.
And the North Bay Parry Sound Health Unit. Okay, perfect. So would, we had a mover and a seconder for that resolution initially. Yeah. That still stands.
Do we have a say in the company supplying the vaccination?
No, no.
We don't.
Because right now there's 4 types of vaccine and they're geared for different ages and there's different agreements between the province and the community stakeholders or health providers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so based on the resolution now, we're calling it to a vote. Those in favor? Carried, adoptee. And we'll be able to provide a copy, send a copy of it to our health unit so they can gather all the resolutions as well. And we have an upcoming meeting this Thursday. The municipal leaders, and I'll convey the message that West Nipissing has adopted the resolution and that we also amended the resolution to include the federal government. I think that's really important. Okay, so is there a volunteer as a mover and a seconder so we can adjourn this meeting? Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Lise.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-24, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing Municipality to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on the 29th day of March 2021, to come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal. Be it resolved that the special meeting of council held on March the 29th, 2021 be adjourned.
Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried. Adoptee. And this concludes our meeting until Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Thank you. Merci.